second. This is wait. No. Sure, that is. I was ready, and now I'm not. Real quick. Sorry if my voice is not normal. I went to the doctor, and turns out I have a really bad cold. So I'm feeling a bit under the weather today. See if we can focus in here. There we go. We're going to talk about Oklahoma in just a minute, but I had a little issue with the printer, and I was able to get it fixed, but let's just say the first draft of scripted went all right, but then, yeah, it completely fell apart. So I had to redo it, and I now have the official scripted right here, fully stapled, and that'll be coming out in the coming days once I get better. So let's talk about it. I'm in the Oklahoma outfit because it's time to talk about the Sooners. I was right about the Sooners. Let me explain. So, second year in the SEC, and there was little expectations that Oklahoma would be able to make the playoffs. They just joined a new conference. And like Texas, they are going to struggle to adapt to the SEC's schedule because the SEC is a defensive and more gritty-esque conference. You're going to need to be able to learn and adapt to the harsh and gritty ways that you have to win these games because these are some of the best in college football. Even still to the Big Ten, like these teams can go toe to toe with the giants of other conferences and then demolish the lower tier. So if you join the SEC, you better be prepared to go through a gauntlet of tests. First year of Oklahoma, that's what happened. The committee said, well, what do we have here? We have a brand new kid, guys. Well, let's give him open arms. And everyone just gave him the death stare and said, we're going to pick on some new kids, boys. Turns out Texas had a bit of an easier path than Oklahoma. Still beat them in Red River. But little did we know that Oklahoma and Texas would do pretty well in their first year. Oklahoma went 6-7, 6-7 to end off the season. They got a huge upset win over Alabama. Basically, they were the reason Alabama did miss the playoffs, which is funny as hell. And we're gonna get into all that. We're gonna get into the deeper dive of that, but I mean, 6-7 in your first part of the SEC. You make a bowl game and you still lose, but Navy is a good team, and so it's a respectable loss. You can tip your cap to Navy. They played a better game that day. And so you made it to a bowl game your first time in the SEC, which is a big accomplishment for just moving into a conference. Something that took Michigan State, took Miami, a lot of these other teams a lot of time to do in their conferences or when they joined their conferences. So to do it in 1 year and make a bowl game is pretty impressive. And then also to have your other Big 12 brother make it to the semifinals in the playoffs. It's a pretty big ordeal. So then 2025 rolls around, Jackson Arnold goes to Auburn, and everything we reset. And oh my God, we had no idea how impressive the defense was going to be. We sacrificed our offense for our defense. So 2025 started off the year hot. Wins against Illinois State, big win against Michigan at home, then at Temple, and then the most consequential game, I believe. I think this game, Auburn took more. We took more of the loss than Auburn did in the general. because Auburn is always the bottom tier of the SEC, so they're not expected to go to the playoffs. They're just meant to be a rugrat for Alabama to cook in the final season, to give Alabama a test in the final season before playoff day. So, retrospect, looking at it now, Auburn had more to gain from losing than we did of winning, because it just so happened that in that game, John Mateer would go down with a thumb injury to his right throwing arm. That was the end of Oklahoma's offense for the foreseeable future. We'll talk about the playoff and all that later on, but for the most part, once John Mateer went down with that thumb injury, it was just pure heartbreak, because now you don't have your gunslinger, you don't have your throwing arm, as you're not going to be as accurate or as powerful. So he went into Kennesaw State as Jackson Arnold went into Kennesaw State. They pulled John Mateer early, then put Hawkins in to get some reps and blew him out 44-0. And the worst thing Brent Venables did was put John Mateer back out for Texas. Now, if Michael Hawkins played, would it have made a difference? Probably not. But maybe some of those turnovers wouldn't have happened. Maybe some of the offense would have looked a bit different. Like there's some what ifs. But I think for the most part, you just take the loss to move on without John Mateer. Instead, he plays John Mateer because John Mateer wanted to play, and John Mateer had basically he took a huge risk and it ended his Heisman candidacy right then and there. It nearly ended Oklahoma's season for them. So I'm sure Brent Venables, if Mateer gets hurt on his leg or whatever, is not going to play him at all until he's fully healthy, because that derailed that momentum, and suddenly they were now on the precipice of missing out of the playoffs, because since the playoff was at 12 teams, but they also added a new rule saying the highest group of 5 representative, and then at least if that didn't happen, then someone from the lower tier G6 teams would come in. Now there was only 10 spots you can get. There 11 and 12 were relegated only to the highest conference, highest group of 5 representative. And if there was no ACC representative, a team from like James Madison, San Diego State, New Mexico, and all that, they would join the playoffs as an auto bid, which is what ended up happening. And that was funny. That was getting funny. Yeah. And so, amazing season though. In the end, went 10-3 and shocked the world. And I'm happy for them. But yeah, that Texas game was the difference maker. And again, because of those 2 spots that were automatically guaranteed to the group of 5, 1 representative for the group of 5, and at least the ACC, the highest conference in the ACC. But unfortunately, since that was Duke, we couldn't have that and all that. You get the idea, and everything put out the way it did. So basically, you have to get into the top 10 in order to get to the playoffs. So basically, going 10-3 ain't enough. You have to go 10-2 in your conference, or you have to go undefeated in your conference, because otherwise you are not going to make. Hold on 1 second. Yeah. So it sucks, but we actually got to play South Carolina for the first time ever at South Carolina. We hosted South Carolina at some point during the Big 12 when we were in the Big 12. But yeah, now we actually got to go to their place and we cooked the crap out of them. Sorry. Mind you, this was still when Lenore Sellers was playing for. This is still Lenore Sellers, South Carolina. So we had a big loss against Ole Miss, and that was basically Oklahoma was 6-2. And if they even, and then here's what would happen if they lost This schedule was already tough enough as it was, with teams such as Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, and LSU in the back half. Like Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, LSU is basically the equivalent of Florida State having to face Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, Penn State, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia in this the week after week after week. That's the equivalent of what we got. Of course, we have no idea how Missouri and LSU would turn out and how Ole Miss would turn out. So, who's to say that maybe that mitigated? That was a little bit of an iffy one. But still, preseason wise, this right here, this schedule, brutal. So after the loss to Ole Miss, we regrouped, and now we were in must-win mode. Oklahoma, if they have took another loss and be 9-3, I mean 7-3. No, sorry, 6-3. If they got to 6-3, they would be out of the playoffs. They cannot. They need, because at the time they needed that Texas was still mattering. That Red River was still going to matter if they, because then that means Oklahoma and Texas would tie. If so, let's say so. Here's how it went. Let me take you back to uh, August to October 25th. Okay, Saturday, October 25th. The rankings have come out, and Texas and Oklahoma Oklahoma's in front of Texas because of their schedule. Let's say Oklahoma wins Tennessee, they win against Alabama, they lose Tennessee, they win against let's say they win against Tennessee, they lose to Alabama, and then they win out against Missouri and LSU. They would be 9-3. Texas in this case they went out and go 9-3. Here's what happens. Oklahoma, they have to put the head-to-head triggers. So Red River will trigger, and because of that, Texas would jump Oklahoma, and then Oklahoma would be left out. That is why. So if Texas never existed in this SEC, Oklahoma could take another loss, and then they would just need others help from the others. But because Texas is there, which is kind of fucking funny in my eyes, and it's funny that Texas is the reason Oklahoma almost missed the playoffs this year. Because of that head-to-head battle, then Oklahoma would be left out in favor of Texas because Texas would jump Oklahoma like Notre Dame, like Miami did to Notre Dame, because the head-to-head would matter. Obviously, that didn't happen. But again, that's why Red River is so important in the regular season for both of these teams. It's the reason why it's for years it's decided title runs, playoff runs, and just national champions. Because if those teams end up in the same tie, they end up with the same record or whatever, whoever won the head-to-head would most likely get into the playoffs. It's that important. It's more important than Bedlam. It's more important than the Iron Bowl. And I would go as far as to say, arguably more impactful than the game between Michigan and Ohio State. That's right, bigger than that, because it allows for those teams to have a tie that no other conference has, which is hilarious. Again, sorry I'm under the weather, but I'm going to push through it. So, fortunately for my sanity, that did not happen. Instead, Oklahoma shocked the nation. They went on the road to beat number 14, then number 15 Tennessee. Sorry, beat then number 14 Tennessee, and went on the road and beat then number 4 Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And I was like, holy, does Oklahoma and Alabama, does Alabama have an Oklahoma problem? They do. It's just we've created a new rivalry from it. But holy crap, this is when there was a funny meme going around called the SEC Ring of Fire, and I'm going to make an entire song off of it based off Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire, where it goes like something like this. So Alabama beats Georgia, Georgia beats Texas, Texas beats Oklahoma, Oklahoma beats Oklahoma State sometimes, and then Oklahoma beats Alabama, and then it repeats and over and over. And it's happened at this. It's happened 2 years now. It's happened 2 years now. So this year we're gonna see. Next year we're gonna see if that changes. We'll see. But rest assured that Ring of Fire is probably one of the funniest meme theories I've ever seen. But it does take into consideration that Alabama they were another team that had to play the same team twice this regular season. We'll get to that game in a moment. So Oklahoma was sitting at 8-2, and all they needed to do was win their final two games, and they punched their ticket to Norman. They punched their ticket to the playoff. And Missouri, they skid by Missouri barely, and they hung around enough by LSU because they had Isaiah Sectania do what he does best and be the Komodo dragon for Oklahoma. They're ugly, but they win. So they go 10-2, 6-2 in the conference. Their only two losses coming to very good teams, mind you. And people were taking notice of this. They're like, is Oklahoma about to go on a playoff run? Now we had no idea about Indiana. So we were all thinking, oh my God, Oklahoma and Alabama, this is going to be the game of the century. Turns out, if you're an Oklahoma fan, yeah. First time I raged on camera. Okay, first time I actually raged on the camera. Yep, because that's what happened. Analyst first, fan later. 17-0 at half. Alabama comes back there and beats Oklahoma 34-20. 34-24. In Norman, and gets a revenge dagger for last year. Can't be anything twice. But near here or there. So I was right about Oklahoma. I had full faith in this team to go do what others and show the world. In the whole year, I was talking about these underdog stories: BYU, Indiana, Oklahoma. Who else? Tulane, Georgia Tech, and all these underdogs. Yeah, Vanderbilt. And we're gonna refer back to a stream I did last year, where I said that quote, Oklahoma is going to do something incredible. And I don't know why people hate on Oklahoma. They are the best program, and for what they've done in the SEC, they've earned it. Do I still believe that a year later? Yes, I do. I believe that Oklahoma is right at home in the SEC. And yeah, I was right about them. I said they're one of those teams that if you play them, you better hope you're in Alabama, not even Alabama, you better hope you have to play them twice. Because it took Alabama three separate times the third time they finally got the upper hand. It took 2 times. It took 3 tries for Alabama to finally win against Oklahoma. That's right. It took 1 year and a half in one season. It took 2 seasons to get up to catch Oklahoma off guard. So, yeah, Oklahoma, they can, just because they lost to Alabama does not mean they suck. They can beat Alabama just like Georgia can beat Alabama, just like Texas can beat Oklahoma. The SEC is a conference where on any given Saturday there will be an upset. Guarantee it. So before we wrap up the show, let's go ahead and dive into, because I also want to go lay down. let's go ahead and talk about the upcoming schedule for the 2026 season. So, the 2026 season is going to be an interesting one. So, like I said, I already mentioned this. We play UTEP. We host UTEP. We go on the road to Ann Arbor. We go on the road to Athens. We go to Cotton Bowl to face Texas, and then we get a lot of home games. And then we still host South Carolina. We host South Carolina, but we go on the road at Mississippi State and then Missouri, and also at the Swamp. So basically, it's the reverse of last year. Instead of hosting Michigan, we're going to Michigan. Instead of going on the road to South Carolina, we're hosting South Carolina. Instead of going hosting Missouri, we are going on the road to Missouri. But notice there's no Alabama, no Tennessee, no Vanderbilt, no Arkansas, no LSU, no Texas Tech, no BYU, no Ohio State, no Indiana, no big dogs. Only Georgia, Texas, Michigan, Florida, Ole Miss, A&M, and Missouri. So, hold on 1 second while I mute. There we go. But yeah. So the bye week will come here. This is when the bye week happens. And it couldn't have been more better because that means we get a bye week before Texas. So we go New Mexico, then we go sorry, my ear. We go bye week after Georgia. We get a bye week, and then we go play Texas, and then we get 2 home games, which is gonna be nice, and then we get three more home games on top of that. So this right here could be Oklahoma's chance to go 11-1, possibly go 11-1 because they could beat Texas, and that means they would only have Georgia. They would only lose to Georgia, and then they could beat Ole Miss. Under Pete Golding, they can still beat Ole Miss. So I would be shocked if they go like 4-5 this year. They have a shot to go to the playoffs again, and hopefully don't have to face Alabama, but they will probably have to face someone like Ohio State and all that, which I know they've already beaten Ohio State, so I'm sure Ohio State would love to get some revenge on them. But yeah, so that's where we're at right now with everything. Wanted to say some. Also, I will be trying to cover more college basketball because I feel like that would be fun to do. So I'll give it a thought. But yeah, so that's basically what we're going with now. Here, if I searched. Okay, I guess I don't have it on here anymore. What? I guess I don't have it. Hold on. 1 second. I'll look at it later. I'll look at it later. Anyways, but yeah, that's where we're at right now. I'm gonna go to bed now. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see what Oklahoma does this year, but as always, I'm Alex. Love college football, and hope I get better. Love you all. See you all tomorrow, hopefully. Bye bye. Ugh.